And welcome to Deloitte Live. My name is Hope Ellen. I'm your host for this afternoon, and I'm joined by George, who is a Bright Start apprentice. He's here to discuss all about the programme. So, George, to begin with, what is your current role and how long have you been with Deloitte?
So I am currently in a 5.5-year level 7 apprenticeship, and that's a legal apprenticeship. So currently I'm sitting within the legal department, and as part of that I'm in the immigration team. So you can rotate through various seats and you may join in a different department, but for me, I'm currently in immigration. I've been at Deloitte for 3 years now, so I'm in what most people would be their final year of uni. Not quite there yet for me, but yeah, loving every second.
Talk to me about finding out about the apprenticeship programme in the first place. When you were maybe leaving school, when you were weighing up your decisions, what appealed to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a question that loads of people think about, and that was massive for me as well. So for me, it started just before I left school, actually. So in year 11, when I was 16, 17, I was starting to think about the sort of things that I wanted to do. Wasn't quite sure what job I'd wanted to go into, but I knew that I wanted to go and get a good qualification, preferably a university degree. But at the same time, I wanted to go into the world of work. So I wanted something that could meet those two targets. And so I started looking into apprenticeships, and law stood out to me straight away. And so I looked around various different law firms, but Deloitte really stood out to me as being a fairly young company, not in terms of how long it's been around, but in terms of the employees and the environment that they work in. And so I looked into it and sort of went for a deep dive into the department and sort of things that I'd like to work in. And from there, found loads of reasons to join. So yeah, that's where it started for me, just looking, doing my own research really. I had a few people come to talk at my school about apprenticeships, but a lot of it was self-led.
It is about finding out what is best for you, because you could get advice from every single person with all different ideas, but really it's what you feel is most important. Taking the route that you did, what training do you think that you've benefited from that you wouldn't have if you'd gone to university?
100%, yeah. It's a very personal thing, and it's not right for everyone, but neither is university. And it's great that you have the option there for people who want to get into the world of work early on and get that experience. In terms of training, there's been plenty of on the job and off the job. So you get the stuff that you'd imagine through university, but actually working hands-on with the departments that overlap with your university work has been really great. So that on-the-work job and experience that you get from that is invaluable. In terms of formal training, you get loads of stuff to help you progress from joining as someone with maybe some experience. For me, it was none at all, and making yourself comfortable. So things like talking to clients, you may not think it's a thing that they would focus on and you'd be expected to know how to do it straight away. But for me, you get that training, you start talking to people in a controlled and safe environment so that when the time comes that you're ready to progress, you've got all the knowledge and the training that you need to be there.
You mentioned that you didn't have any experience when you started. Some people did, and there's different levels as such. What qualifications did you have to be able to do the programme? Yeah,
so some of the requirements for different schemes, some of the different Bright Start schemes are different. I know that it's not an experience-based requirement. So for me, when I joined, I'd never studied law before at all, never picked up a law textbook. The only thing I'd done was spent a 2-week work experience with one of my friend's dads at a law firm in London. So that was literally it for me. Neither of my parents come from corporate backgrounds. They own small businesses. So really it was completely unknown to me. But I studied hard and worked hard at GCSE, got my GCSEs, went on to do geography, history and drama at A-level. And from there got my A-levels and applied based on that.
So it didn't really matter what those qualifications were in as such, unless drama's come in handy, I don't know.
Drama has come in handy because it means that I can talk to people and I've got that confidence to talk to clients and stuff. And yeah, the interest from geography and history overlap slightly, but no, you don't need that requirement. But it doesn't get held against you if you do or you don't. So I know people who've applied who did A-level law, for example. It wasn't a subject that was offered at my school, and Deloitte in the application process didn't hold that against me at all.
What was it about law that appealed to you?
So for me, is the way that my brain works. My mum always said it's funny. At school, in about year 7 and 8, I learnt Latin. And I said to my parents, I don't need to learn Latin unless I want to be a lawyer. And I'm never going to want to be a lawyer. And my mum's always said, you'd be a great lawyer because I'm good at arguing. And then a couple of years later, I thought, you know what, actually, it's really interesting because I'm into history, politics and geography. And they do overlap quite a lot. And for me, at Deloitte especially, and one of the major reasons why I joined the firm was because you have such great interactions with the clients. And so the drama element of me talking to people and interacting with them means that you get to talk to them on a personal basis, get to know them, but you're also offering services that are quite personal as well. So the world of law really appealed to me on that basis.
Obviously, you're getting the hands-on experience that we've touched on. If you went to university, you might not have had the chance to do that. So how more well prepared for the world of work do you feel?
I feel like I'm definitely more prepared for the world of work than I would have been had I not gone into the scheme that I'm in. It's provided me with a massive amount of legal knowledge, definitely, that I definitely didn't have before. But on top of that, corporate experience. A lot of people go to uni, they'll study really hard and they'll get loads of theoretical knowledge and stuff, and that's fantastic. It's great to apply that when you get into the world of work. But to learn straight from school how to handle yourself in a corporate environment, I feel like that's been invaluable for me.
One thing that you mentioned at the start was the fact that your programme is 5.5 years compared to university degree that is 3 years. Now, for some people, that might be like, oh my goodness, that is so much more time. But what's the benefit of stretching it out over that longer period?
I think there are a few different benefits, really. The main one is that you're spending more time learning the same amount of material, which means that you can do it in deeper knowledge, you can get taught more from the university itself, but on top of that you have more time to go and do your own research. You're not wrapped up in you have to get this done and then that done because you're doing it in a 3-year period. You have the ability to go on and go, oh, I've actually learnt about land law this week or this past module. Really interests me. I'm going to go and talk to someone at work, see if I can talk to them, have a bit of mentorship, see if there's opportunities within the firm, and you can explore it through those different avenues. Whereas at university, as I said, it's more theoretical and you may not have those opportunities.
Have you had a mentor?
Yeah, definitely. There are a few different mentorship schemes that you have at Deloitte. We have people called people leaders who are responsible for your performance cycles, making sure that you're meeting targets and goals for your grade and for you personally. But you also have coaches. Coaches will stay with you for the entire process and they're your go-to contact if you have any questions about the course or about anything else. If you have any safeguarding concerns or you have any questions like, I want to get involved in volunteering, then you can go to your coach. And of course, you have loads of other mentorship schemes. You have people within your team, managers, for example, who are there to support. And most importantly, I find, are the buddies. So you have people in older cohorts who will buddy for the people in the younger cohorts. So for me, for example, I buddy a legal bright star who's come in the year after me and keep in contact with her on a regular basis. And yeah, those support networks are so important and really well established.
It's so good to have that support from people who are not only your peers, but also who have done or are doing the same thing as you. But let's talk about the social side, because that is another biggie for people who want to go to university. Did you feel like you missed out on that or are missing out on that?
No, I wouldn't say so. I'd be lying if I said it's exactly the same, because realistically, when you finish your work on your day-to-day, you're not probably going to be going out and doing some of the things that you would do if you're at university full-time. But the trade-off of what you get in exchange for not going out every evening is fantastic. So for me, I built up a great group of friends in various different streams. So that's people within my team at work, that's people at university itself, and it's also people at the firm on similar schemes to me, whether that be other Bright Start apprenticeships, not legal based, or whether it's people in the older years who have been where I am to a certain degree and are going through their own journey now. So you build up these great networks, great group of friends, older than you, potentially younger than you, and the same age as well. And you do have that sort of community that you would get at university. And that's without even mentioning the fact that you are still going to university. So you do have that cohort there, and you can talk to them, and you can organise social events and do the same things that you do at university with them.
It's also networking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you get to work with people in different departments?
You do, definitely. Yeah. A massive reason, again, why I decided to join Deloitte is because of how many different departments there are. I'm still wrapping my head around it now. I've been there for 3 years. The opportunities are endless. If you put yourself forward for them, it would be very, very rare that someone that you're volunteering for or your team member would go, no. It's because they really care about your personal development. And if you want to put yourself forward for something, no matter how big or small that project may be, they're going to push you for it because it's helping you do what you want to do, but also get where you want to be. So I do loads of different volunteering activities. I volunteer at a local law clinic, for example, and provide pro bono work to people who can't access legal services otherwise. And I do other internal events as well. And it's a great way to network, a great way to meet new people, and a great way to get yourself involved in other departments. Because who knows, you may join the firm as a legal bright start. In 10 years' time, you may be in a completely different, you might be working in HR, you might be working in management consultancy. You never know where doors might open for you.
Talk to me about work-life balance, because for some people, they think, oh, I'll go to university and then I can just focus on my studies. I don't have to have a job at the same time. I can just do that. You're obviously doing both at the same time, which I imagine leads you with not a lot of time for yourself.
Well, it depends really. It depends on how you look at it. So for me, the scheme that I'm on is 4 days a week you're working and 1 day a week you've got for university. So I like to take my university day on a Friday, and the teams are very lenient. I know some people have it on a Wednesday, some people have it on a Monday. Friday just works for me. But the balance between the two is how you approach it. And if you are willing to put in the work on the Friday to get your university work done, then it frees up time over the weekend, frees up time after work or during the rest of the week. And you definitely do have the balance there. And importantly, you have the support networks if you don't find that balance straight away. Because I know it is difficult to find the balance. You're stepping up from school to university
totally
and
different
work, and it's a completely different way of working. So you do have the support network to lean on, like I said, the people leaders, the coaches, the buddies, to ask those questions and make sure you're hitting it. But yeah, as you can imagine, you're in an office most of the week, you're meeting the people in your teams, and very regularly you have different social events that you can go to and build those relationships from there.
You mentioned that that's a big transition from being at school. Was the training, did it start off a little bit soft maybe? Did it ease you into it and then get gradually harder to progress you, or how did it work?
Well, for me, it was a bit different to what people would have now, where I joined during COVID. But
yes, I can imagine.
yeah. So I joined virtually, but I met teams fairly early on and worked in the office from there. The training, the way that it's structured is fantastic. So for me, when you go in, you join the tax and legal team, which is a combined tax and legal department, and you go on a residential trip for 5 days, might have been 4 or 5 days, and you learn a lot of on-the-job training that you'd need to be a day one apprentice. So that's how to talk to clients, safeguarding, code of conduct, and various other things that you would need before you join the firm. And that's an intensive course, it's 5 days, but you have networking opportunities there too. After that, you're not just thrown in at the deep end, you're given regular training through your specific team, your managers on that team to make sure that you're working well, but also department whole training programs. So you might have, for me, for example, I work in immigration. If some new piece of legislation is released, you might have a specific training session on that. And that doesn't stop after 6 months. 3 years on, I have, I'd say probably a training session at least once every 2 weeks, which is quite a lot if you think about how many weeks you're working.
We did skip a little bit of a step in terms of the application process. Obviously, you mentioned that you were a bit in the COVID cohort, so it might be a little bit different. But if someone was applying now, do you know what that would look like, George?
So there are various different avenues that you need to go down, and it depends on what Bright Start apprenticeship you're going for. Jenny will be on in the next session to talk about the specifics, but from my personal experience with applications, the things that I would look for is going on the website and just doing your own research. That's where you'll find most of the information. I know that for me, the first thing that you had to do was put a bit of information together about yourself, the standard things, name, grades that you are on track to achieve for A-level if you haven't got them yet, or grades at GCSE. And from there, you go through a multi-stage application process. where Deloitte sees if you're a right fit for them, but you get the opportunity to see if Deloitte's the right fit for you. So it's a great back and forth process where you learn more about the firm.
When you were offered the position, how did you feel?
Oh, well, it was during COVID lockdown. I was on a bike ride with my mum and I stopped at a set of lights and I pulled out my phone and I had like 3 missed calls and it was from an unknown number and I phoned them back and someone said, "You've got the job," and I was like, oh wow, really excited. But instantly there was that sort of, wow, that's a big step. And so it took a day or two for me to realise like, yeah, I'm actually doing this. But instantly those nerves went when I stepped through the door for the first time. And from then on, it was just excitement, really. Great opportunity, and I was very fortunate to be offered the job.
Has there been anything that's really surprised you?
Oh, loads of things that surprised me. I think the main thing that surprised me is how seriously you're taken. So you go from school, and my school was quite a small one, but any school really is a very small percentage of the population, isn't it? And
it's a small pool.
Exactly, yeah. And by the time you've been there for a while, you're in sixth form, you're the oldest there, you're not a big fish in a small pond, but you feel like you've been there for a while and you're well established. And then all of a sudden you go somewhere where it's completely new. And I thought, there's going to be a load of people who are a lot older than me, and I'm going to be, treated like I'm definitely a lot younger than them. And then I did a bit of research. And
you grow within your role?
The culture's fantastic. I mean, if you look at the way that they're structured, Deloitte as a firm, not just the legal department, but more broadly, the various initiatives outside of purely work, the fact that I can have the opportunity and I'm supported by my team to go and do these volunteering pro bono work, I think it's fantastic, because you're working for very high profile clients day in and day out, but really you want to get as much experience in different areas as possible. And the culture of giving back to people when you have the opportunity, the culture of going and talking to schools and buddying people within Deloitte and making sure that everyone feels welcomed, it's just amazing. Feeling like a fresh company is a real, breath of fresh air in today's corporate environment, because you've got loads of firms that have been around for hundreds of years but are constantly looking for ways to improve. And if you look at something like the climate impact initiatives and some of the other early careers initiatives that they might have, there's something for everyone. There really is.
Just a quick moment to say to our viewers at home, the stream did drop out temporarily, but we're back. Sorry about that. Fingers crossed doesn't happen again. Let's talk about you mentioned the support earlier on and that one-to-one coach. If you were matched with a coach that you weren't keen on, could you change?
Absolutely, yeah. Funnily enough, we've had quite a few different cycles where you get someone reaches out to you completely disconnected from your coach, so no worries about confidentiality or anything like that, and say, hey, are you comfortable with this person? Are you happy to renew your relationship with them, keep it going for a couple more months? And so there's that proactive reach out from them, so you don't have to feel, it's a bit daunting reaching out to someone saying, I'm not comfortable here. You have people coming to you and offering that ability to change and shift about if you want to. But equally, the support network's there that really, if you come, you can talk to your coach themselves. If something's not working for you, you don't have to go to somebody else. You can talk to them and say, look, I'd really like it if you could give me a bit more help with this and this and this. And they'll be more than willing. And if they're not, then you have the opportunity to go and seek someone else.
Speaking of help, earlier on we mentioned the work-life balance and your Friday is your university day. If you need to maybe say, actually, can I have some help with this particular bit of work because I'm really struggling to get it done, is your team understanding and happy to help you?
Definitely, yeah. And as I said before, and there's a regular theme of there being plenty of people to go to, you can go to various different people. So for me, I've had different modules at university that I found more difficult than others. And I've had people within Deloitte that I can go to and say, you work in this field, I've got a question about this. Do you reckon you could have 5 minutes just to chat about this and see if we can, work it out? And more times than not, if they've got 5 minutes spare, they'll give me a ring and I can talk to them. But also to keep in mind that you've got people ahead of you who've been through where you are at the moment. They've been and done their university degrees separately, and now they're here on an SQE course, which is Solicitor Qualification Exams. They're graduates, and they can give you a hand with any question that you have because they've been there and done it. So I often lean on them, and and say, look, I'm struggling with this bit of land law, I've got no idea because it's difficult. And they'll go, okay, let's have a chat and we can work through it. And then, yeah, more times than not, you get the answer that you're looking for.
That links to the culture again, doesn't it?
Definitely, because if you're there and you ask someone for help, you're not doing it purely for yourself. You know that not only are you networking well with these people that you might work with down the line, but they can also come to you for help. So I've had people who've come to me asking questions about various aspects of university or work, and that knowledge share across teams and departments as a whole is just fantastic. You're really all one big team, despite having loads of little departments within that.
George, I feel like I could speak to you for hours, but I want to know, what's your favourite thing about the apprenticeship?
Oh, that's tough. My favourite thing would probably be the range of work that you can do, number one, and number two, the people that you're working with. So I've created great groups of friends with loads of different age groups, different grades within the team. So for example, next month I'm doing a triathlon with my manager in my immigration team. So it's like you can go and build these friendships outside of work, and that's fantastic because you think university is great for building networks. Wait until you've got hundreds of thousands of people within one company, and more immediately you've got hundreds of people who you can work with and they all know something different. It's great. And as I said, the other favourite thing is the range of work that you can do. So I've been in immigration for 3 years. In September this year, I'm going to be rotating out of immigration into a different legal seat. And from then on, every 6 months till the end of my course, I'll be going to a different seat. So that for me is just so refreshing, knowing that you can do something and love it, and then next week you can go and do something completely different and figure out that you love it even more. And by the end of your apprenticeship scheme, if you choose to qualify into a specific seat, you've done that on the back of working in all of them for months, rather than at university you may have just learnt about it here and there. You've actually been stuck into the work and know exactly what it's like day to day.
That really is brilliant and refreshing, because there's nothing worse than like training for one thing, a specialism, and then actually deciding, this isn't fun after all. So that is fantastic. And what advice would you give to someone who's considering doing a Bright Start apprenticeship?
My one piece of advice would be to start early in your research. If you don't know what you want to do, or you do know what you want to do, just go online and have a look, because I promise you, no matter what you're looking at doing, there's going to be something there for you. Every year that passes, something new pops up, a new apprenticeship program, a new seat, a new opportunity, and there really is something in there for everyone. I'd say get online, look on the website, dive deep into the different categories and different work that people do. And from there, keep an eye out for things like this, careers events, in person, online, whatever it may be. Go there, log on, submit questions, ask people, and find out what you want to do, because the opportunity will be there. On a more informal basis, there's people like me who have LinkedIn, people who are at the company who you can connect with. Pop them a message. I'm friendly, I'll give them a message back, and we can talk about honestly day-to-day work, opportunities, and whether it's right for them. So reach out.
He is friendly, I can say that. George, thank you very much for sharing all of your insights and advice this afternoon. It's been really great. And for you at home, thank you for watching this. We'll take a short break and be back for another session a little bit later.
When you're in the business of creating better futures for everyone, you realize that there's often more than one finish line. And while speed is important, what really pushes everything forward is continuous transformation. It's what leads to better futures, to real substantial change. It connects the people, IP, and industries that create entirely new hybrid businesses. It turns an insurance industry that covers people into a wellness industry that helps them recover. It opens faster routes for first responders. Teaches bacteria to eat microplastics from the ocean. Deploys trusted AI to preserve and protect our forest and wildlife, and even fights wildfires from space. We are committed to perpetual impact because it's what pushes the world forward.
Good afternoon and welcome to Deloitte Live. My name is Hope Ellen. I am the host for this afternoon, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Jenny to discuss all about the application process. So Jenny, to begin with, how long have you been working with Deloitte and what is your current role?
So I've been with Deloitte 2 years now, and I currently work in early careers recruitment.
So you are an expert in this field, hence why we've got you on today.
I'd like to think so, hopefully.
So let's talk about the application process as a starting point. How do people apply?
So our application, you need to apply online. So it's an online application form. Should take no more than 20 minutes long. So it's a chance for us to find out a little bit about yourself. So we ask for some personal information, background and education, and experience if you have any. You don't need to have experience, by the way, but if you do. So that's the first initial part of actually submitting your form. We don't require CVs, we do blind screening. You could possibly use the autofill from your CV to fill in some of the personal information, but if you do, we do advise that you're checking that through because sometimes some of the lines do not align. So we always say check that through.
Okay. So with this not having a CV, some people might think, oh no, but I've not done that before. What is this blind screening that you mentioned in more detail?
So at Deloitte, we focus on you as a person. These are entry-level roles. So what we're saying is, whilst having previous work experience is great and you can bring those skills, to your application, we look at your results through the tests that you do. So go into that a little bit more detail a little bit later, but two of them, one being our immersive online tests and one being our job simulation as well. So we take the scores from that as opposed to looking at your previous experience. Not everyone has previous experience. We provide the training that's needed for this role.
Brilliant. Now let's talk about the stages. Obviously, the first one is to fill in that online application, which takes about 20 minutes, as Jenny said. What's next? And do those stages change depending on which role you're going for?
Predominantly, a lot of the application for our Bright Start roles go through the same process. So from your online application, everyone will be guaranteed an immersive online assessment. So that is where you'll be asked a series of work-based scenario questions, and you need to rank it as to most likely to least likely in terms of what you would do. We do ask that you answer this honestly. It's a chance for us to get to know you, but likewise for you to get to know us as well and work out, is this the right fit in terms of the role and the company as well.
Yeah.
And I was just going to go on to the next. So the next step from there is once you've completed the immersive online assessment, you will then go through for our job simulation assessment. And that will consist of a video interview. So it won't be with someone from the business directly, it'll be pre-recorded. There'll be a written element to it, as well as some multiple choice questions. And again, we ask you to rank it in terms of most likely to least likely. Once you've completed that process, that's when we will be looking at your scores and then deciding if you come through to the final round assessment centre.
With the video stage, what helpful tips would you give to someone? Do they need to have brilliant Wi-Fi? Do they need to be dressed in a suit maybe? What advice would you give?
So your videos will be reviewed by the recruitment team. So we do ask that obviously when you are dressing for the video exercise that you do dress smartly, and they will see the top half of this in the screen. We also ask that you do have obviously good internet connection, because without this it can stop and start. And what that means sometimes is that it could cut off and we'd assume that you finished the process. Okay. We also ask that you have good lighting, a quiet room ideally, and just think about the surroundings around you. You might want to blur the image behind you. You might want to think about what's behind you before you actually start filming and recording yourself.
And if you record that and then you think, oh, actually, I don't like that, I made a mistake, can you re-record it or is it submitted?
It's submitted. Once you've done it, you will then submit it through. Correct.
Okay, so make sure first time
that you're testing everything. You can actually just do a quick pilot to test before you actually go live to then start.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's good. And then the face-to-face interview, if you get through those stages, who is that with?
So when you go through to the final part, this will be our virtual online assessment centre, which does consist of a final round interview being one of the steps. Final round interview will generally be with either a senior manager, director or partner in the area that you've chosen to apply to. So someone that knows a little bit more about the business. What it consists of will be some questions such as competency-based questions. So it's where we ask you a series of questions and you need to draw on any experiences that you have from your past. It could be anything extracurricular you've done at school, any hobbies, interests you have outside of school. Then there'll be some strengths-based questions, so some scenario-based where you can give back hypothetical answers. And then right at the end, some topic questions. Not a lot you can do in terms of preparing for your topic questions. You'll have a chance to listen to the question, have a think, and then give your answer back. We do always say that when you're having a think, if you need a little bit more time, always ask your assessor, can I just have a moment? And they can give you an answer. So that's the final round interviews part of the assessment centre. You also will do a group task with other candidates that have applied to the same programme, but maybe a different service line to the area that you've applied to maybe. And this group task, it'll be a chance for us to really see how you interact with others. So you'll be given a discussion scenario, and what we're looking for is to come up with a conclusion with the team that you're working in.
How can you stand out in those group situations? Because in the past, I've been in those situations, and sometimes you think, oh, I need to be bold and I need to be the loudest. And then you might think, oh, actually, no, that's overbearing. I don't want to do that. So how should you behave in that situation?
So a lot of it will depend on the dynamics on the day with the other candidates, your peers that are there with you. The main thing is to try and get some of your points across, because if you don't, it's very hard for the assessor to actually mark you. What we do say, some of the hints and tips that we give beforehand is, we do this via Zoom, and there is obviously that function of the reactions button. So if you are finding it hard to get your point across, you can put your hand up and raise it. We encourage that as well. And hopefully your team members see that, and you can then come up with some responses. Likewise, at the end of the group, if the assessors have noticed that maybe it was a challenging group, there were some dominant members, they might directly go out and ask individuals certain questions, or they might just ask it out as a group. So you've got another opportunity there to pipe up as well.
In the one-to-one interview, and I apologise, we're jumping around here all over the shop with the different stages, but in that one-to-one interview, I know you said you can't really prep for the topic-based questions, but the competencies, can you?
You can obviously go online and have a look at some questions that you might get for competency and strengths based, and think of some examples that you have. What we're looking for ideally is a range of different examples, things that you can use as talking points, areas that you can bring out your skills and interests, which shows that, you know, Deloitte is the right place for you. We're not looking for previous experience that necessarily matches the role that you're applying to. As I keep saying, these are entry-level roles, so training will be provided, as well as obviously the degree as well.
And I've heard this before, and I could be wrong, Jenny, but is it good to have examples that you can change to fit different questions? Have a few lined up in your head?
Exactly, yep. So we would say that you have a few pre-prepared that you can think about and tweak as necessarily during the interview process. There is also one other part that I didn't mention, but we also have a spotlight task, a bit like a case study. It's a half an hour exercise, and quite similar to the final round interview where you get topic questions at the end. You will get, in the spotlight, some topic questions there as well. The difference between the final round interview and the spotlight is that you actually get time to prepare for the topic questions. So you'll read the materials during the individual preparation time, have time to digest it, take down notes if you feel you need to, and then you'll go into a discussion on a one-to-one basis with your assessor. And talk around those topics. He or she will try and challenge you at times. That's just to see if there's any more responses we can get from you, and then obviously close.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I was going to say, again, this is not something you can completely prepare on, but what we do say is take your time reading through the material. If you feel it helps to jot down any notes, always have a paper and pen handy in your virtual assessment centre. And if you need a moment, feel comfortable to ask the assessor that. What we do say for these exercises, we always expect ideally that you have your camera on so the assessor can see you. When you are having your preparation time, that you put yourself on mute so that, you know, you're not hearing any background noise. Likewise, your assessor will do the same. if you can't see the materials on the screen because you have access to this, that you make sure you let the assessor know there and then. What we don't want is going to preparation, not knowing what's going on right at the end, going through with it. So feel comfortable to mention if you've got any concerns during that time.
What kind of people are you looking for people working at Deloitte? I spoke earlier on to one of your colleagues about the culture. What would you say people's personality traits need to be like?
We are looking for all kinds of people. I think, we're quite a flexible firm. We've got lots of different cultures working at Deloitte. We are looking for people that really have an interest in Deloitte, want to further their career, want to work in teams, work with different types of people, and enjoy a challenge as well. You need to, I suppose, Deloitte is a company that likes to change with the times as well, so you need to be quite flexible in that approach. When we have new things going on, that you're going along with us on that journey as well.
And earlier on, you mentioned different areas within Deloitte. I know it's a huge company and there's so many areas, but can you give us a flavour of a few?
So we recruit for Bright Start specifically. We have areas in consulting, audit, tax, legal, risk. I'm just trying to reel off some that I can actually think myself because I've got quite a few. But they're some of the main areas that we recruit for in Bright Start. And then alongside that, we have London being one of our key locations, but we also have locations in Birmingham, Manchester, Belfast and so forth, so all over the UK.
Brilliant. And obviously you mentioned different areas there. How important is it for someone to know exactly which area they want to work in when applying? Or can they change that if they apply for one and then think, actually, I'd rather do that?
It is quite important to know the main service line that you'd like to work in. Within the service line, sometimes there can be some movement, rotations. But what I would say and what I would encourage is we, throughout the year, run a lot of campus, when I say campus events, virtual events online for Bright Start candidates as well. I would say attend some of these, whether it's in person or virtually. All the information's on our website. Through that, you can find out more about the different service lines that we have. A little bit more obviously about the programme itself, but you get to meet people from the business. There are opportunities to speak on a one-to-one basis as well as a mini group as well. And these are the chances where you get to find out a bit more and get a flavour for which area aligns best to your background or to your interests, really.
You mentioned different locations. Is there room to relocate?
So what we ask is that if you've picked a specific location, that's the location you're staying at for your Bright Start, because that's where obviously we've got a vacancy. But later down the line, once you've completed it, personal circumstances might change and you might be relocating. That could potentially be an opportunity for you to then move around.
Brilliant. And of course, with the application process, different stages will be different numbers of people getting through. But how large are cohorts normally, roughly?
In terms of the numbers?
Yeah.
Not going to be able to give out the numbers as such, but we do have, what I can say is Bright Starts, our London location's probably slightly bigger than some of the regional areas, but what's good is that when we have the induction week, so for the Bright Starts is in September, we get everyone together from all the different locations, so they get to meet all the Bright Start community, which is a good way of networking as well, finding out a bit more about what everyone else is doing. It's also a great chance during that induction week to meet a lot of senior people, make connections, find out more about projects as well and what you might be working on. We also have what's called a portfolio week. So just straight after your induction, you find a little bit more about your service line, meet people that you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis and get more of a feel of that as well. Yeah.
That's great to actually be able to connect with people who have been there, done that, and in senior positions. Are the apprenticeships open to people who are a little bit older?
Yes, it is. So what we say with the apprenticeship, it's for those people that have not completed university. Yeah. So we do have, majority of the people that apply are generally who've just left, completing their A-levels, but we do have slightly older candidates applying as well, and we encourage applications from everyone. The criteria is that you have not attended as in graduated from university and got a degree.
In terms of qualifications, I assume for different areas and different roles they'll be slightly different, but can you give us an idea of what you need to have to be able to get on the apprenticeship training programme?
I would guide you towards the website for that, because you are right. For different areas, there's different UCAS points, and sometimes there might be some changes happening come the next campaign. So I would say for the next lot of candidates, please do look on the website, because we might have some changes on that side.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jenny. And of course, with that as well, when do applications open?
So for next September 2024, applications will ideally hopefully open by this September or October. So we do it always a year in advance, and it's ongoing. So we will keep it open until we have filled our positions, but likewise, we also have an onboarding deadline, so there will be a cut-off where we stop the following year. What we do say is if you are really interested, because the assessment centres, once we get the applications coming in, we don't wait, it's ongoing. We will run the assessment centres as soon as possible. So we do say get your application in early as possible.
How much support is available to people? Is there kind of mentors or coaches? And if people are struggling with understanding the actual process, the application process, is there someone they can go to?
Yep, we've got a big recruitment team at Deloitte. So at each stage of the process, if there are any questions, there's always a contact you can go back to. If they can't answer it, they will direct it to the relevant recruiter. So some of the issues that might happen, for example, you might have problems with the testing side. So let's just say your internet connection does come out. The team behind the scenes can have a look at that, they can see what time it came out. They can check things for you and reset it if need be. It could be that maybe you've been invited to an assessment centre, but you can't make the date that's been given to you. The question might be, will I have an opportunity to come to another one? Again, we have relevant people to answer that. We obviously have certain numbers that we recruit for in certain areas. So each question can be, we've got a big team that you can direct that question and it will be answered for you.
Are there reasonable adjustments made to those who need it during the application process?
Yep, we have a reasonable adjustments team. So at every stage of the process, there is a line in there about if you do require any reasonable adjustments. If you respond back to that email with the adjustments you require, we have a team that look into that, give you a call to discuss it, and then make the necessary adjustments needed, whether it's the testing side or the virtual assessment side.
If someone does need reasonable adjustments, does that impact them in the process?
Not at all. Like I said, we do make those adjustments. If they feel comfortable, we also let the assessors know as well, just from the point of view in terms of adding on extra time that they need. They will have exactly what everybody else has as well. So yeah, no problems at all.
Give me a do of the online application and give me a don't.
Well, do fill it out correctly.
Check it.
Check it. And also what we do say is your personal details are very important to us. So a couple of things on that is, do make sure your email address is correct. And by correct, I mean, that you've got the exact one that we can directly contact you with, because everything generally is completed through emails. Likewise, make sure you have your correct telephone number that we can contact you on directly should we wish to discuss anything with you. A don't, I would say, is please do not send in your CVs to the inbox. We don't need it. We do blind screening, so nothing's going to be done with your CV. So don't feel you need to do a big CV, big cover letter and send that off. We don't actually require that.
Okay. Also, that would look like people haven't read what they need to do properly, won't it?
Exactly. True.
So it could go against them. Tell me a do when you're doing the team assessment, and a don't.
The group task, yeah.
Yeah, the group task.
So do make sure that you do discuss and share your ideas with the team. What we don't want you to do is, whilst it's good to get your points across, please be mindful of others. Not everyone is confident speaking out in a group, and also virtually. For some people, this can be the first time they're attending a virtual assessment centre. So just be mindful that when you're getting your points across, give a chance for others to also do the same as well, and listen. And try and encourage those that maybe are not talking as much. It's good to bring in the quieter members. It's good to listen to everyone. If you don't agree with someone's point, that's absolutely fine. But if you're going to challenge them, do it in a constructive way.
And how can someone in that situation be a leader or show themselves as a leader without being too domineering?
Well, what we're looking for is, obviously you've got the end goal of coming up with a conclusion. So, a good leader would guide the team, maybe check on the time, move them when they feel necessary, and get the best out of people. In that short space of time, it's, you know, picking out people's strengths maybe and getting out information from them. So yeah, a leader will be someone that's getting the group together as a team, as opposed to just putting all their points across.
And what soft skills do you look for in candidates?
We look to see that they have good communication skills, that they are good, I suppose, with, you know, contributing ideas, initiative as well. We like people to think outside the box and not just come up with the standard ideas. So yeah, and good, I suppose, what would I say? Good contributing ideas and cooperating as well. So again, a lot of teaming, because we do work a lot in teams. A lot of the roles are not standalone, especially on the Bright Start programme.
Does the application process change? I mean, we've spoken about a lot of it being virtual. Mm-hmm. Is there any room for it to be in person? Was it in person in the past? Will it go back to being in person?
So it was in person pre-COVID, and obviously after COVID during COVID and after COVID, we went virtual. We have found at this point in time that it works really well for us. We can run a lot more assessment centres a lot quicker as well. And also it fits in with candidates. You know, if you're travelling in, that takes up time. You know, you've got problems on the trains. It's actually
and
transport
cost too.
And cost as well. Cost of living's gone up as well. So we do find it works a lot better for candidates. Likewise, you know, they can slot it into their, you know, if they've got exams, study sessions coming up, they can slot it in around that. And generally it's a morning or an afternoon session. So it's not going to take the whole day out for you because you're not travelling either. So we find it actually works a lot better.
Something that I'm sure a lot of people want to know are salary expectations. Mm-hmm. Does that change depending on which area? Does it change at what stage of your career you're at?
Mm-hmm. So for the Bright Starts, yeah, it does. Salary slightly different in terms of location.
Okay.
Yep, so there is that difference. And yes, as you go up and you're being promoted, again, we have appraisals every year. Your work will be looked at. You know, you'll fill in feedback form, get feedback from all the people that you've worked with. And then from that, it is collated in terms of where you're going to go on your next step, etc. So yes, that is looked at as you're progressing through the firm.
And say someone's got through all of the stages and they've actually been called up and on their right number and told they've had the job. What happens next? Is there like an introduction period? Is it a week of settling in? How does it work?
So just before they join, is that what you specifically mean, or when they've started?
Both, either or.
So when they've been made the offer, it could be as long as, if we're running assessment centres, let's say for the next campaign, you could have been made an offer in November of this year and you're not starting till September. That's quite a long period. So what we do a couple of things. We assign you a buddy that works within the area that you've applied to, and a buddy generally is someone who probably is most likely on the Bright Start programme themselves, and you can talk to them up until you join, even when you've joined, more on an informal level, you know, to find out a bit more about what it's like travelling to the office, what projects they're working on. So that person's assigned to you and there for you. You also have what we call our early talent team within the business. So we've got further contacts. Should you want any more questions answered, we can put you in touch with them. We also run a post-offer call, and that is to let you know what to expect coming closer to the start date in terms of how we onboard you, what information required from you, where your induction week will be, for example. Then you'll also have emails from our training team confirming dates of the induction. Then we've got some more information on your laptops, you know, laptops being delivered, etc. So there's certain points where you'll be contacted. We also, 3 months before the start date, you'll get access to the Facebook group. So that's a chance for you to network with other Bright Starts that are joining, you know, to build a little community, ask questions, maybe meet up with people before you actually start the role. Once you're in the firm, the first week, as I've said previously, is the induction week and what we call our analyst induction programme. A lot is put into that first week. You'll meet partners, you'll meet senior people in the business, you'll meet all the other Bright Starts. You'll also meet the graduates and the industrial placement students who are also joining in September. So it's quite a big group there. During that week, they'll run a lot of sessions, anything from presentation skills to laptop training, everything and anything you need will be run on that week, as well as a social as well, to get to know your team a bit more better. The following week you have what we call a portfolio week, where you find out more about the area that you're working on and possibly the projects that you're going to be on. The third week is what we call a persona week. So for each of the roles, it's going into a bit more detail, but for each of the roles, you will be under certain personas such as junior developer, technology transformation analyst, design analyst, and so forth. There's a lot. But you find out a little bit more about the persona, and there's a bit more training around that as well. So it's a really stepping stone before you go into the main part of the project work. So you are really supported there. And at that time, you'll find out who your people leader is. So the person managing you during your projects. You'll also get a mentor as well, and you'll still have your buddy. So loads of different people to be in touch with and, to watch you and guide you as well throughout the programme.
I'm blown away by how much support and guidance is put into that initial time. That's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot, yeah.
Why is that important to you guys at Deloitte?
Well, first we want to make sure that we're retaining our bright starts. The programme can be anything from about 15 months to 4 years, depending on the area that you go to. And, it is a permanent role. Once you've rolled off on the Bright Start, you are permanently with us, and we hope that you stay with us and progress through the firm. So we want to make sure that we're putting in as much support that we can to make sure you feel comfortable. You're coming in at quite a young, for majority of the candidates, they are coming in at quite a young age, so it can be quite daunting. So we want to make sure that you've got enough people to go to should you have any queries or problems or any concerns.
And one of those people is the buddies that you mentioned. Yeah. Are they chosen at random? How are they selected?
Buddies are usually selected. We try and align the buddies with the programme the candidates are going on to. So we try and get previous Bright Start people that are currently on the programme or coming off the programme to buddy up with the new Bright Starts that are joining, just because they can relate a lot more to the experiences. They can give them a bit more guidance in terms of what to expect. There might be some questions that they had that actually they can answer for these new Bright Starts as well. So it does help putting them in touch with people that maybe have a similar background.
With that in mind, though, is there room to also network outside of your area from the start if you'd like to? Definitely.
So as I said, in the induction week, you'll be mixed with all the service lines. So that's an area, that's a place where you can network, as well as the social as well. On top of that, although you will be in your project teams, there's still a lot of cross-working going on. So you'll be sitting with graduates, industrial placement students, consultants, managers, senior managers on projects. These are all a great chance to be networking, whether it's in the office, virtually through meetings as well, going out onto client sites. So there's lots of opportunities for you to meet a whole host of people.
You mentioned the social side there, and I want to touch on that more. What does that involve? What activities do people do? Because when choosing apprenticeship versus university, some people feel like they're going to miss out.
I'd say some of the socials are, a majority of them are really good actually, and I've actually been on a couple myself as a helper. But some of the previous ones we've done is we did one at the aquarium at South Bank, London. That was very nice. Just, informal nibbles, drinks.
Educational as well.
Yep, walking around, looking at the fish and everything. It was amazing. They've done one at Somerset House, so that's quite nice as well. Nice scenes, summer, etc. So the venues that they pick are areas where people can, relax, be themselves. It might be a little bit of a sport element to it. It might be a bit of an activity, but mainly for people to relax and chat and be able to mingle a bit more with a lot of different people. Don't have to just be from your own area that you've applied to.
What are your top tips for people looking to apply for a Bright Start Apprentice? Give me 3.
3 top tips, okay. First, I would say research the area that you're applying to and just be sure that that's the area that you'd like, and that is obviously through attending some of our virtual events or in-person events, because that's when you get to meet the business. Tip number 2, and it links back to the online application form. When you're filling it in, please make sure that you are looking at the details and making sure you're putting the right year, especially of when you're finishing your A-levels. And tip number 3, I would say if you are invited to a virtual assessment centre, please do attend. We put on coaching calls. please attend the coaching course, because that provides a lot of information about what to expect, and it'll also put your mind at ease as well. We'll give you, half an hour where we'll go through some of the things to expect, but also it's a chance for you to ask any questions as well.
Very good answer. I put you on the spot there.
Thank you.
And finally, why do you think someone should work at Deloitte?
Deloitte's very inclusive, they're open. Like I said, we have a lot of different cultures working. We, especially for the Bright Starts, all our programs, but Bright Starts, because they are so much younger as well, support them a lot. We have, as I said, buddies, mentors, people, line managers. You've obviously got the recruitment team. There's not a place where you're just left alone. There'll always be someone there that you can turn to. London office being one of the bigger ones, the regional slightly smaller, but even so, everyone would know you. You know, when you go into the teams in the business, you've got your own little community. It's a bit like being at university, I suppose. You've got your friends there. This is your own little community within the workplace. So as well as having that, you've got the wider teams and so many people that you can go to for advice. So I think it's a great place to work. And actually, I've come back for the second time, so it's got to be great.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for sharing all of that today. And thank you to you at home for watching this. This has been Deloitte Live. Thank you.